Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I am your keeper, the Harry Channel, and with me tonight are minions SkepTock.
Hi, everybody.
And minion and Pluto enthusiast Sora Luna.
Good evening.
Pluto enthusiast seems like a good way to phrase it. In fact, when I'm being sarcastic or trying to be funny, I find that taking anything and following it by enthusiast is usually funny.
Doesn't it just take what someone's passionate about and just make it sound so juvenile?
Yeah. Well, I have a friend who's a big train nut, basically. That's what normal people would call him, but no, it's like train enthusiast.
I call my dogs enthusiasts.
But I think in between nut and enthusiast, you could go with train admirer. Then that sounds really wrong.
That sounds like it's one step from being engaged to a train station.
It sounds like you're driving to the train station because you love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Train admirer. Luckily, but you're just a Pluto enthusiast, right?
Not a Pluto stalker, for example.
No. We keep a healthy distance. You know?
Yeah, and I think beneath Pluto enthusiast, the slightly less engaged would be Pluto apologist.
That's yes.
Banter.
The case for poor old Pluto.
Ah, yes, banter. That's what everybody's here for. Let's see. Hey, oh look, we've got people. Awesome.
Hello, people.
Hello, people.
Hey, Costin.
Costin.
Hey, JB. Nice to see you guys. Hi, Mike. Thanks for joining us this evening. Excellent. Good job.
All right. So, Sora, do you have anything you want to share before we jump into stuff?
No.
Okay.
Well, actually, no, that's not true. If I sound a little bit weird, I'm very sorry. It's the first time I have a new headset with mic. So if it sounds odd, let me know. Because I cannot hear myself. So
it sounds a little really thin, but it sounds very clear. And I think that's really good.
It does sound like thin, you're right.
Yeah. I don't know how to change the thinness.
Don't
turn sideways. I don't know.
It requires
eat
money,
more donuts.
No, just money. It just takes money.
Donut admirer, Sora. Okay, stop it, Harry.
Oh gosh.
Donut enthusiast.
All right. Well, while we're here, we're just one step away from Schadenfreude. So, sorry, Skep. Did you have anything you wanted to share?
Oh no, kidding. You're an old man.
All right.
Curled up in the corner, just waiting for death.
Well, that's on that happy note. So you may have heard of CNN Plus. I think this is the thing that Jen Psaki was hoping to go work for when she left the White House.
I have a one-liner on this one, if I may.
No, feel free.
Do you mean the interweb service launched by CNN that is less than 1/2 the size of Ranting Monkey's subscriber base? Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one. It seems like it's going really, really well.
They deserve this so bad. They just deserve this so much. They've made such a hash of this, and now everybody's saying, no, this is the market voting. Fuck you.
It's fewer than 10,000 people.
Fewer than 10,000 people are using CNN Plus on a daily basis, 2 weeks into its existence, according to people familiar with the matter. So I guess they talked to top people, and they pitched this idea. And as I've mentioned a few times, I've been in a lot of pitch meetings, doing work with venture capitalists and just my own stuff. I've been through a lot of these damn things. And people show up and they've got their spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet clearly shows how it's going to be successful. It's like, you say, well, how do we know you're going to, make a return in 2 years? Well, look at the spreadsheet. It's right there. You can but people act as if we don't know that they're the ones that put the numbers in the spreadsheet and that the numbers are all made up. It's really more aspirational. And so CNN is off by like a couple orders of magnitude.
It's so true. Orders of magnitude, that means times 10.
Yeah.
2 orders of magnitude means times 100. Yeah. They are less than 100th of the size they had hoped to be.
Yeah. Well, they've only spent $300 million to get less than 10,000 subscribers.
Ouch.
I mean, they were thinking they would have like 2 and 3 million people, on it.
Well, if I give...
it even says that. It said 2 million. Okay, never mind. I was just recalling back to something I read. Yeah.
If I give American Express, it's like $350 or $375. I forget what it is for the platinum card. I can then go to the lounge at the major airports, and I can get the cookies. The cookies are supposed to be good, and they'll let you relax and hang out until your flight. In exchange for money, I get something. In exchange for $6 a month, what the hell do I get out of CNN Plus? Do I get like overtime with Brian Stelter? I mean, what?
You get in depth with Joy Reid.
In depth with Joy Reid,
or some Joy Reid clone. It's just obnoxious, and they tried to sell a bucket of feathers to the American public, and the American public just said, "That's a bucket of feathers. Fuck off."
Yeah. Oh well. Do you even get CNN up in Canada, Sora?
Sure.
Okay. I just don't know how far the contagion is spread. I would think you'd have your own version of CNN.
No, I mean, we get whatever is you can plug into.
You get
it's
the People's News Network, right?
CNN,
It's like those regional, the KTWXF5.
Yeah. Sponsored by Esky and Skidoo.
Skidoo.
All right. Well, I mean, originally this was going to be in a block called Schadenfreude this week, but I found another media thing which is a little weightier, actually. So let's move on to the next thing, shall we? I have a serious question, which is, basically, I looked at the ratings for The View, and I wanted to ask myself, why are we listening to this group of nasty old harpies? And why do we care what the people in The View have to say about pretty much anything?
What could Joy Behar possibly contribute to your life?
Exactly. So I went and looked at the ratings, and of people watching network television during the day, it's smack dab in the middle. It's sort of six-ish with a 0.34 share. This isn't really lighting the world on fire. So amongst
Days of
women,
Our Lives is still on. Oh my God.
Women 25 to 54, it's still, smack dab in the middle. Households, it's there. But then you bring up total viewers. So for the week, the viewers are 2,726,000. Now, doesn't that put them on par with, I don't know, Timcast or something?
That'd be below Timcast. That would be like at Philly DeFranco.
Yeah. So in terms of actual numbers, they don't really have all that much reach. Why is it that every time one of them gets bent out of shape, that the media and a bunch of people bend over backwards to get their smelling salts for these people?
I'm going to assume that this is all about like what did they call the minority bingo that they have to reach, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't do that, then they're going to have to create a whole new show with a whole new everything, and that's just a lot of work and money.
Mm-hmm.
Might as well just prop up what they already have and just go with it for the time being. I don't know.
Well,
It's more like
patch up the old jalopy because the new car costs too much.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I think in a particular demo, basically, women at home of a certain age, they have a really strong audience, and so advertisers like that, and so they may actually get more advertising dollars than you might expect for their 2.75 million viewers a week. They might actually generate more revenue than you might think. just based on the raw numbers. But I mean, what is that demographic? You know, because there's all sorts of women in the world that don't watch them because they're at work or doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, homeschooling their kids, doing literally anything else other than sitting within earshot or working within earshot of a TV that's got Joy Behar's voice coming out of it.
In any case, the show would not be there if it did not support itself with the advertisers who desire to pay money to be on that show. Therefore, it is a success.
Yes, but why do they have so much political capital is what I want to know.
Just they happen to be right place, right time. I think that's most of it. I really do.
I think we pay way more attention to them than we should.
Oh, yes. And by way more, you mean any.
No, they deserve to be listened to a little bit, but they shouldn't have some sort of ultimate authority. If Whoopi Goldberg is offended by something, okay, Whoopi Goldberg is offended by something. I'll make note of that. But that doesn't mean that we should all stop and take a beat and pay attention because Whoopi Goldberg is offended by something. Oh, no.
I could
not
care
Whoopi.
less. I could not care less.
Yeah, I need to stop doing what I'm doing and pay attention to what Whoopi Goldberg thinks about something.
No. Negative.
No. Okay. All right. Well, I thought maybe I was missing something, but clearly I'm not missing anything on this topic. Okay.
She's not really Gaian.
No.
She's an actress.
No, she's just an actress. All right. So, going into Elon Musk news, of which there is a lot. Robert Reich, former labor secretary, incompetent economist, and garden gnome impersonator, wrote something in The Guardian where he talked about how dangerous the idea of Elon Musk taking over Twitter would be.
About as dangerous as naming Robert Reich Secretary of the Treasury.
Well, it seems like there's a whole bunch of projection here, so I just gathered a few little things. Actually, can you read this, Sora?
Sure.
The highlighted bit?
Sure. But Elon Musk, the richest man in the world with 80 million Twitter followers, wasn't pleased. Musk tweeted that US tech companies shouldn't be acting as the de facto arbiter of free speech. Musk continues to tell his 80 million followers all sorts of things. I disagree with many of his positions, but ever since I posted a tweet 2 years ago criticizing him for how he treated his Tesla workers, he has blocked me. So I can't view or post criticisms of his tweets to his followers. Seems like an odd move for someone who describes himself as a free speech absolutist. Musk advocates free speech, but in reality is just about power.
Yeah. I think this is a beautiful example of there's projection, which I don't know if Reich is actually aware of, but then this is a really dishonest argument. You know, Elon is not suggesting that if he takes over Twitter, nobody will be allowed to block other people, or that you can't choose which people you want to engage with. He's simply saying that the algorithm would be public domain. Like, he would be absolutely clear about what the algorithm is, and they wouldn't just ban people willy-nilly for reasons that weren't clear. Mm-hmm. That's not the same thing as saying Robert Reich is a moron, and I don't want to listen to his nattering. You don't have to listen to him or Whoopi Goldberg in a perfect world. You could just say, this isn't interesting to me, and then move on to building rockets or something.
Like Jack is saying in the chat here, you won't listen to me, therefore I'm not allowed to talk. Yeah.
Exactly. So Musk has long advocated a libertarian vision of an uncontrolled internet. This is Reich's thing here. The vision is dangerous rubbish. There's no such animal, and there never will be. I don't know, Skep. I kind of remember the way the internet used to be. That's what it was like.
Yeah, it's exactly how it was. And it was amazing. The innovations that were happening day by day were amazing.
Man, Usenet was the bomb.
It was the bomb. I was all over Usenet.
Someone has to decide on the algorithms in every platform how they're designed, how they evolve, what they reveal, and what they hide. Musk has enough power and money to quietly give himself this sort of control over Twitter. Again, this is more progressive projection in my book. What does he think the current Twitter overlords are doing?
This is what I love about guys like Wright. If you could go back to that earlier quote, just the last.
Scroll
up. No. Down a little bit.
This one?
Stop. Right there. Someone has to decide on the algorithms in every platform, how they're designed, how they evolve, what they reveal, and what they hide. Think about that statement. That's what this guy thinks. He thinks that's the way that works. He thinks there's this thing, there's this magic god in there called the algorithm that controls everything in the platform. It's this mystical god they can construct. He really, this is an absolute travesty of an argument. And it's the hubris that he shows, taking this responsibility on. Someone has to decide on the algorithms in every platform. He thinks that those things should be there to control the user base and to control what they say and to censor what they say, and to make sure that the right values get put forth in every tweet, and every tweet is healthy and similar. He doesn't realize what he's advocating. Reich is a control freak of all control freaks. If you know anything about his history, he's an absolute fucking terror to work for, and is just there's nothing good about him. And compared to Prospero's opinion of him, I like him.
Yeah, she gets frothy about him. Let's see. Make no mistake, this is not about freedom, it's about power. In Musk's vision of Twitter and the internet, he'll be the wizard behind the curtain, projecting on the world's screen a fake image of a brave new world, empowering everyone. In reality, that world will be dominated by the richest and most powerful people in the world, who wouldn't be accountable to anyone for facts, truth, science, or the common good.
Isn't
That's
it already
Musk's
like
dream. Yes. And Trump's and Putin's. And the dream of every dictator, strongman, demagogue, and modern-day robber baron on Earth. For the rest of us, it would be a brave new nightmare.
Man, he was really butthurt a couple years back, wasn't he?
Yeah, just calm down, dude.
It's really upset.
I mean, I'm not one person who advocates medicinal marijuana, but just do something, an intervention, like a warm bath with some Enya playing, some candles, just anything.
What? No. It's the new thing now. Isn't it like microdosing on mushrooms? Isn't that the new thing?
Microdosing on psychedelics isn't new at all, but it's.
But it's the new popular thing because everyone is pro mushrooms legalizing and all that stuff. At least up here.
Yeah, it's becoming one of those things that's acceptable. It's like the Overton window has finally moved to the point where just openly saying, I think everybody'd be better off if they did a little bit of mushrooms is now an acceptable thing to say.
Right. I think they ought to put Xanax in the water supply.
Well, we've all had silly ideas. I mean, you could come up with some therapy thing where relationship therapists are giving people ecstasy, for instance, and then you could do some weird thing like that. It might even work. I don't know. I mean, I'm not qualified to say, but the idea that you can just go to the corner drugstore and get mushrooms, that's probably a good thing in terms of freedom. I'm not sure that the implementation will be really messy.
By the way, Minions of the Zoo does not advocate taking hard drugs, and especially not something like ecstasy, where one dose of ecstasy, one in your lifetime, increases your chance of getting multiple sclerosis by 400%. It's worth thinking about.
What about 2 doses?
Doesn't matter. It's just
800%.
Any doses at all. It's like it turns on a switch basically.
Okay. Well, no, I'm not advocating. I'm just
Wow.
saying that a therapist could come up with some sort of thing. But people self-medicating with stuff that's this powerful, I don't like the idea personally. It's not something I would choose for myself. To just go to the drugstore and start experimenting with psychoactives.
You know, I studied that stuff for years and years, and I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I like my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the stuff that ecstasy is derived from is MDA, which was a drug that was originally designed to keep soldiers combat ready for days at a time without sleep. It may have had a few side effects.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah. Understatement is my new thing this week. All right. Well, so luckily, he didn't go unchallenged on this ridiculous thing. Somebody with some real gravitas and some actual writing skill decided to counter his argument, and that was Jonathan Turley. Jonathan Turley said a lot of things about this, but most of it's actually what you'd expect. There's no real big revelation, but except for the fact that it's coming from somebody like Jonathan Turley. Skep, can you read this part? No, your throat's bothering you. We're not.
No. I can do it. I'm cruising along. I've cracked open a Fresca.
Just these two paragraphs, if you would, please.
Our role is not to be bound by the First Amendment, but our role is to serve a healthy public conversation, and our moves are reflective of things that we believe lead to a healthier public conversation. The kinds of things that we do about this is focus less on thinking about free speech, but thinking about how the times have changed. One of the changes today that we see is speech is easy on the internet. Most people can speak. Where our role is particularly emphasized is who can be heard. The scarce commodity today is attention.
Now, this is what the current Twitter CEO is saying. This is Agrawal.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So that's the quote.
There's a lot of content out there.
And then Turley responds to that. He added that Twitter would be moving towards how we recommend content and how we direct people's attention is leading to a healthy public conversation that is mostly participatory. Reich lays out that agenda bare in his column while condemning free speech advocates as petty tyrants oppressing people through freedom. Reich explains that it is not freedom but tyranny. More free speech means less freedom. It is the type of argument commonly used in China and other authoritarian nations and an increasing number of American academics and writers. Indeed, his column is reminiscent of the professors who have called the adoption of the Chinese model for censoring views on the internet. Yes. Yes, that's basically what Reich is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Reich sees somebody like Elon Musk and he just freaks out. He just hates everything that Elon Musk is. The paragon of capitalism, who's actually making the world a better place and doing interesting things. That's the opposite of what a pseudo-academician like Reich is. And if you look at Reich's background, you find he's kind of a phony. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Well, all of this was before Elon said, I'm going to basically buy the whole thing. This was just when Elon had the biggest share and was potentially going to get a seat on the board. All that was required to get Reich worked up into a lather was that. And then now we move forward, and the Twitter board has decided that no, we don't like this above market offer that Musk has made. We're going to basically set up a poison pill that endangers the entire company just to keep Musk from taking over. I was thinking, Skep, if you wouldn't mind, can you give us the cliff notes on what this poison pill is?
Absolutely. First of all, poison pill strategies refers to a defensive tactics that companies use to keep other companies from taking them over, typically in a hostile takeover bid. And if by adopting a poison pill strategy, they can, thwart, they can make it too expensive to be acquired. acquisitions in the United States didn't really happen with a lot of frequency until the 1960s, to tell you the truth. And it's just picked up ever since then as as companies got out of their particular narrow field and began to, look for other ways to make money. The thing that they're doing there is actually in the MBA business would be called a flip over rights plan. And so the most commonly used, and this is the most commonly used strategy. This is the one you see. They call it a flip over shareholders rights plan. And in this situation, the holders of the common stock of the company receive like one right for each share held. And this allows them an option to buy more shares in the company, some number of shares. The rights have a set expiration date, and they're going to do this 354 days at Twitter. And they do not carry any voting power. They're not the shares themselves. They're tied to the shares. It's kind of a complicated legal relationship. They are worthless at the time of the offering because the exercise price is set well above the going market price. You'd never exercise those when you could buy cheaper shares in the open market. A shareholder cannot sell these rights independently as they trade together with other shares. Okay, so when the suitor company, the company that makes this unwelcome bid, when that happens, the rights begin trading separately from the shares because the market price goes up, right? Well, if the takeover bid is successful, the shareholder rights are then exercised to purchase shares at a discount of as much as 50% from the going market price. Every single one of those rights will get exercised. All of the shareholders, except the acquirer, who has no rights, right, can exercise their rights to purchase shares at a discount. This results in a significant dilution, okay, of the shareholdings of the acquirer, because all of a sudden you have all these, you have a whole bunch of new shareholders and a whole bunch more shares. And so what the acquirer thought he might have been acquiring 60% of the company, now he owns 30% of the company. That's how that works. There are other kinds of poison pill plans, things where the target company issues a bunch of debt, or there are variations on the flip over. There's the most important one is called the flip in, and what that does, with that one, the rights become exercisable to purchase the target company's common stock at 50% discount from market price, when in the event that the acquirer purchased more than, say, 30% ownership in a target company. So that's actually if you see somebody coming from a long way away, you might do a flip-in rights plan because it's actually less expensive than a flip-over. Poison debt is one. There's another one, and it's so elegant, but it gets overturned in court a lot. It's called put rights. I haven't thought about this since school. Under this plan, the target company issues rights to its stockholders in the form of a dividend. When the acquirer purchases a specified percentage ownership in the target company, the target shareholders, excluding the acquirer, are entitled to sell their common stock back to the company for a specified sum of cash, debt securities, preferred stock, or some combination thereof. And what happens is they just set that number so high that it effectively absolutely prohibits it, and that's why it gets overturned in court.
Okay.
So there you go. You want some examples of that? Like in 1998, Motorola adopted, I think that was a flip over rights. I think that was a straight flip over rights. Let's see. Under their plan, one right attaches to each share of common stock.
Well, the question is, did it work? Did
it
work?
Well, it did. It maneuvered things to where Motorola got what they wanted. PeopleSoft used that too in 2004 with Oracle. They attempted to use a poison pill that would be triggered when 20% of the company was acquired. And so what happened was Oracle came to them and said, is there a way we can make this a friendly offer? And they worked with them, and they ended up, they were assimilated into the Oracle board.
I don't think that's going to happen this time. Do you? I mean, there's no. I don't see them coming to any kind of agreement at this point. Do you, Skep? I mean, Musk and Twitter.
Elon Musk and the worthies of Twitter? Hell no.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
That's never going to happen. No, he's going to bring in his own management team.
Okay, so
they'll
simple
keep the
question.
Technical folk, but they'll get rid of the managements.
Okay, this is it should be a relatively simple question. So, if these strategies are so well known and easy enough to implement, how is it that any company that doesn't want to be taken over gets taken over? When has this failed to prevent a takeover in a kind of a dramatic and memorable way?
Usually what happens is they don't so much as prevent it as they delay it, and either they get acquired for a whole bunch more money, or the acquiring partner, the business picture changes and they lose interest. That's typically what happens.
Right. So the shareholders in all this, those who might want to actually get their shares bought for above market price, don't get to exercise that right because the board of directors has decided that that they shouldn't be allowed to, effectively.
Right.
Which means a lot of shareholders might start doing things like suing, which is what shareholders do all the time for stuff like this.
You're reading my mind, because this is like a shareholders class action lawsuit going to a law office and saying, "Can I bring some money to you? Can I just dump this money in here in your office?" This is just going to be an amazing field day for the lawyers.
Yeah. Well, at least somebody's going to make some money off of this whole thing.
Yeah. No, look, when the company says it's our fiduciary responsibility to instantly dilute your interest in the company that you paid hard cash for by 15% because we're having a bad day, that's indefensible. You're going to get sued.
Okay. So assume you have 100 shares of stock, and that represents the value of the company.
Yeah.
And then you issue another 10 shares of stock. It's not like you can create wealth that dilutes the price per share so the shares become less valuable. That much is fairly obvious. But to the person who's getting the stock for 50%, say, of market value, they have the option to buy it at that price. In cases like that, the IRS, I don't know, as of about 10, 15 years ago, has started saying somebody has effectively just handed you money.
Right, that's exactly right.
And that becomes taxable income. I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk about taxes too much, folks, I promise. But that becomes taxable income to these people.
Right.
So the shareholders that exercise this purchase as part of this poison pill could be subject to enormous quantities of tax liability that they can't just wiggle out of. There isn't really like a wash sale rule or anything else you can use to sort of get out of this unless they basically buy it and sell it right away for no extra money. But if they realize a gain, they're stuck there too. It's not like there aren't bad things that can happen to the people who buy this stock as part of this poison pill. That's all I'm trying to say.
Oh, no, absolutely not. But they'll still do it. It happens every time. It happens every single time. I went through this at Kronos. When we got our tender offer, and the stock went up from 22 to 45, and I sold all my shares instantly.
I know people at Apple who exercised options to buy stock as part of a purchase plan, where they basically buy it at the lower of the price, at the beginning and ending of the period. Excuse me, that kind of thing. And they could exercise these things, and Apple stock was going up so quickly that, they were literally getting $100,000 worth of stock for, just a tiny fraction of that.
Yes.
Now, and then the IRS would come to them and say, okay, money please, because they would consider that to be income. Not wages, but that's income to them. And so they're stuck with a bunch of stock, which in some cases they're not supposed to sell or allowed to sell, but they've realized this gain, And the IRS wants their pound of flesh, and they're like, I don't have any cash to actually pay for this. It can really put somebody in a bind to get involved in this kind of monkey business.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
You usually the people who do this are capable of getting the help they need to negotiate those rocks and shoals. They're pretty sophisticated people.
Yeah. Oh, well, we live in interesting times. Let's see. Hopefully we haven't bored Sora to death.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the lecture.
No, I asked you to
It's
do
actually
it.
from my old business school notes. I hope you don't mind.
So, and of course, here's Elon's response. You know, if the current Twitter board takes actions contrary to shareholder interests, they would be breaching their fiduciary trust, meaning it's their job to look out for the shareholders. The liability they would be assuming would be titanic in scale.
Yep.
Yes. It's
Well,
like Musk knows what he's doing.
He's issuing a challenge. Look at that violent rhetoric or whatever violent speech he's having.
I know.
No, that's basically what I was saying. In fact, that's exactly what I'm saying. That it would be a class action suit on behalf of the shareholders, and you may have other shareholders especially if they, have large blocks of stock, they'll sue separately, and they'll all be going after every cent that Twitter ever thought about having. Twitter will vanish if that happens. It really will. It might reemerge. It probably will reemerge, but it will really go through some changes.
I will not shed any tears if Twitter vanishes. I'm sorry.
No, me either.
All right. Well, let's see. Out of that block, let's see. Do we need something? Okay, here's just a little something light. This is a picture of a dude. His name is Lord Pickles. It amuses me that his name is Lord Pickles.
That makes me happy.
Looks like an egg.
If you had to come up with a name for this guy, could you come up with a better one than Lord Pickles?
No.
I sure as hell couldn't.
Lord Pickles is beautiful.
Melvin Laird with glasses.
Okay, so since Sora's here, I'm glad Sora's here. How about this? Have you seen those?
Are those the blue fairy penguins?
Yeah, those are the blue fairy penguins.
I like them. They're so cute. Look at that, so cute.
We say gay now, right? Not fairy.
Yeah.
The blue happy penguins.
Interesting facts about little penguins. It's the smallest penguin in the world. This flightless bird stands an average height of 33 centimeters and has a weight of 1.1 to 1.2 kilograms.
He's a little baby.
At 350 degrees, that's only 40 minutes. Oh, sorry.
What?
Hey, Dad, that's great penguin.
It's a real life porg.
You got a little flipper stuck in your teeth there, son. Am I winning, Dad? Yeah, anyway. They are actually kind of ridiculously cute. Look at that.
Oh, would you eat that face? No.
Well, I wouldn't start with the face. The face would be last. You start near like the hindquarters and then work your way forward, I think. Oh, let's see. All right, let's see.
Penguin's the other white meat.
Penguin's the other white. Okay, on to more annoying things. Third bus of illegal immigrants arrives in Washington, D.C. from Texas. Now,
thank y'all.
I think this still falls into the category of being kind of a stunt. I don't think that it's caused any sort of real impact yet. I mean, you're going to need a lot more buses to really make the point.
Yeah.
But Texas has been doing this. They've been sticking migrants who are willing to go on a bus and driving them up to D.C. and saying, have a good time.
Yep.
And just turning them loose.
They get a swag bag, a bus ticket, swag bag, a little bit of food, and 2 things of water.
They get like a Texas Texans foam finger A can of Rotel tomatoes.
Yeah, and a giant foam cowboy hat.
A giant foam cowboy hat. And a shirt that says, "I'm not Turd Ferguson."
No, it says, "I'm howdy, partner."
I mean, I think this is really good political theater.
Oh yeah. Well, this is Greg Abbott tweaking the beards of the worthies in Washington. He has no respect for those people. He really does hold them in abject contempt. He is a Texan.
And this particular picture they show here is, migrants from Venezuela. I have a little bit of sympathy for migrants from Venezuela because communism sucks. And it'd be much better if they would just turn their country around. But yeah, I mean, these are actually refugees as opposed to just opportunistic economic migrants.
Yeah, exactly right.
But we can still send them to DC, right?
Well, sure, absolutely. Just they all get swag bags, they all get water, they all get little food.
I don't think this guy in the purple vest is from Venezuela, though.
No, he's what?
Well, via Venezuela,
via Venezuela, maybe Gabon. That's what he.
Yeah,
he kind of looks like the sub-Saharan, definitely, but not Nilo-Hamitic, more Western.
Well, in the video that I've seen of this, I see these guys. They cut this little armband or wristband off of them that they're in the hospital or they've stood in the drink line. They've had their ID checked for the beer line at the festival or something. And they're all shaking hands with the Texas guys who are turning them loose, and a couple of them even get hugs from those guys. The 1-arm 3-second man hug.
Yeah, A-frame man hug.
I mean, these guys are on pretty good terms with the Texans who are dropping them off in DC.
Oh, good luck to them. Have
good luck
fun on the Capitol.
Yeah,
maybe it shouldn't just be Texas's problem.
Washington D.C. is really nice.
I think they need a lot more buses. I think a tent city in the middle of DuPont Circle sounds like a great idea. God, I'm a dick.
It's a wonderful idea.
Okay, let's see. I think this is the next one.
We used to go down to DuPont Circle in high school and smoke cigarettes and drink beer.
Ooh.
Cut school. That was one of our spots.
There's really, really good food around DuPont Circle.
Yes, there is.
If you have the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C., there's a number of things that are really worth it. You can get fantastic international cuisine in DuPont Circle. Or you can just go to Air and Space and have an overpriced chicken sandwich. Either thing is fine. D.C. is a great city to visit. I've really enjoyed myself the few times I've been able to go to D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, nobody cares about the fact I like D.C. Mexican cartels fly 9,000 drone flights into U.S. to surveil law enforcement operations. This doesn't seem like the way a border is supposed to work. When criminal enterprises can have a small air force of drones keeping track of everything that Border Patrol is doing.
The only time we should be hearing of this is if they say that 9,000 Mexican cartel drones have been shot down and confiscated.
Yes.
Before they entered the U.S. This is very pathetic.
I would think in Texas this would just be considered a fun time. I mean, I'm surprised you guys aren't shooting these things down.
Yeah, should they have those things in hunting where if it's something has entered your territory, it's too much deer or an invasive species, and they're like, okay, we need to cull it by 10,000, and for every head you get $500.
Guys. These drones are the size of birds. So you would have to have a radar that would know the difference between a drone that looks like a bird and a bird that looks like a bird. So that's one problem. Another thing is at the heights that these fly, and they have very good cameras on them. They're small, they have very good cameras, they don't make very much noise. You would hardly even know they're there. You would have to be looking for it, scanning the sky constantly, looking for this, and hope that you saw a little irregularity. I mean, it really is just a tiny grain of sand in the sky. Very hard to find. And the other thing is that they fly them at an altitude. They don't fly them at low altitude. They fly them at relatively high altitude, and it's just usually to track law enforcement movements.
Mm-hmm. It just seems like you guys could modify some of those T-shirt cannons to just throw some chaff.
Sure. Absolutely.
Oh, well, I just, I mean, this is meant to be a provocative headline. Right. I mean, I guess I just have more faith in Texans' ability to shoot down bird-sized objects than you do, Skep.
Well, the other thing is, if you've ever been down to the border area of Texas, that is a distance that is like going from the tip of Florida to Boston, roughly, or maybe Washington, something like that. I forget what the number is, but you get my point.
Yeah, it's a long-ass border.
It's a long-ass border, and it is the ruggedest land in Texas. It is where the mountains start. And it is just rugged foothills, scrub, brush foothills. It's a ugly, nasty situation.
I'm surprised they're not using the drones to fly fentanyl over the border then.
Oh, they do. They absolutely do. They totally do.
I think that drone would have to be a little bit bigger.
Yeah, those are bigger drones. They make them in shorter flights, and that they use the little drones to say, okay, these guys are over here. If we fly the big drone in here, nobody can get to us, and we can get to a freeway and be in traffic and be in a city in X amount of time. And that's what they do.
Well, they could just periodically jam the control signals, because this is consumer grade stuff. It doesn't work on the same frequencies as the law enforcement things. So you could just jam those frequency bands that are used for RC aircraft. Intermittently you see the drones and then you just turn that on.
How fast do you think those cartel operators would have a solution to that? Guys who can swing billions of dollars in cash.
Oh, well, there is a solution to it. There's ways to make them semi-autonomous using stuff like the AI engines in some of the NVIDIA ARM chips.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There are GPUs out there for a few $100s that would give these things basically the same kind of brains as a self-driving car.
So it would be substantially larger than Joy Behar's brain.
Yeah, it's substantially more difficult than just buying some commercial stuff with some lipstick cams, HD lipstick cams, and then using Wi-Fi basically to get the video back. It would be a big escalation. So I just kind of want to make them work for it. That's all I'm saying.
They would be happy to work for it.
Yes. Yeah, I always say that I'm very mercenary and I will work for pretty much anybody for money. I will not work for the Mexican cartels for a whole variety of reasons. Yeah, got to have some principles. Let's see.
Never say never.
All right, well, let's move on to this. Luckily, Sora's here, because otherwise it'd just be a sausage fest talking about this. Let's start charging men to have babies. What do you think of this idea, Sora? Did you get a chance to peek at this?
Yeah.
It's pretty cringe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks to another pandemic, it's time to change everything again. Thank God for the Spanish flu, because then we got the vote and then we put in better health care. We as in women voted for. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this argument comes up all the time. It's always fun when people go, I wish there was a way I would get more money, right? And then it's sort of, you start with that as your conclusion and then you work your way backwards. And that's pretty much where this argument came from. We think we should get more stuff for doing something we want to do anyway. So work your way backwards to a justification. To let them steel man their stuff for a moment here. Withholding social infrastructure to push women out of the workforce while making them privately finance raising their children is peak capitalism and pure evil. Yeah. The only solution is to lean into our exponentially consumer-driven society and deploy a market strategy. Women need to start charging men to have babies.
Receipts, please.
Okay. So this is my quick and dirty opinion about this before we go into in depth.
Yes.
Do you want your population to decline? This is how you have your population to declining to the point where you are going to have other cultures who come in who have no problem staying barefoot pregnant in the home because it's expected of them. And then anything that used to be your culture in that particular Western culture, Western country, quote unquote, will get replaced. This, I'm not saying it's good, bad, or the other, but this is what you're looking for. England is a good example of this, right?
Yeah.
But then if you're so interested in getting paid to have a kid, I think that's legal in the States. It's not a thing that's done here, but you can always get surrogated. There you go. Here you are. You're going to get paid for having a kid. It's not going to be yours. You don't have to pay for it until they're 18, but you get money for it. This is just so silly. It's very, very odd. I don't know.
Well, they want to get paid. See, they want to have the kid. Okay, here's...
No, see, that's the thing. I don't think they do.
No, they do.
It's...
they do.
If you want to have a kid, you have a kid. You don't go into all of this nonsense. People have been managing to have children and still either keep a career or return or change or figure out how to make it work.
But Sora, it's inconvenient.
What we need is to develop an external uterus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have the men carry it 50% of the time, women carry it 50% of the time. Equality.
Can you rest a beer on it?
Sure.
Nice. So, I mean, that wouldn't be so bad. So, okay. Oh, let's see. Who is here? Crabbo with a stabbo.
Hello.
Hey, Geodes.
Hey.
Did peak stupidity motivate you to hop on?
A little bit. Yeah, well, I wanted to comment on the article a little bit since we're talking about it.
Okay.
You brought a knife. Good.
I brought a knife. Exactly. I brought a knife.
Go ahead. The floor is yours.
All right. So this article actually reminds me of a conversation I heard between, because of course sometimes I watch MGTOW content, and you know I alternate between getting very frustrated with the movement and thinking that maybe they're onto something. But one of the things that somebody said was that, you know, that at the rate they're kind of going with some of these policies, like if this policy was actually taken to its logical extreme, like there are guys in some of these movements who have basically more or less said, like, you know, hey, if this happens, we're suddenly a gay couple, right? And his buddy's like, oh yeah, no, totally. And so it's kind of like this is like, yeah, and again, I think that's a bit extreme, and I'm not sure it'd come to that, but then I see something like this and I'm just like, so maybe they're onto something.
Well, when you're hanging out listening to the MGTOW people talk, I'm pretty sure, I would bet money that they bring up the fact that some guy can go off, date some woman briefly, they hook up on the third date, she gets pregnant, and doesn't want to have anything to do with him moving forward, but whether he wants to or not, even if she can't pay for the kid, the state is going to go after him for 18 years plus potentially college to pay for this kid. So men are already, in many cases, paying women to have babies.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm being a little bit tongue-in-cheek here, but there's an exchange of money
I know
that's going on, and the men are paying. So whether you say it's for the kid or not for the kid or whatever, there's already money changing hands in these situations. So, and I'm sure that in the MGTOW crowd, they kind of are painfully aware of this, and you don't even necessarily get any kind of parental rights with the kid. You just get a bill.
It was just something that I was reminded of with the article title and everything. I'm just like,
And you can't actually get out of it by declaring bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't pay the child support and stuff, they will do things like shut off your driver's license. They will take away your driving privilege if you don't pay the child support. There are very few things, even if you default on your student loans, they don't shut off your driver's license and your ability to actually earn money. So, I mean, I don't listen to this stuff, but I've heard plenty of horror stories about guys who've just been fleeced.
Yep.
Because of they just didn't, even if they used prophylactics and things, they just lost out on that odds game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's there's a lawyer actually who I don't listen to very often, but I'm trying to see if I can find him really quickly. But he was a former divorce lawyer. He's retired now, but he talks about some of the stuff that he had some of the cases he had to represent and just how insane it got, and it's if I could never find his channel, it'd be worth a watch.
Well, the state basically doesn't care about these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not really the point. The argument here in this article is that the woman pays a very real price for having the kid in terms of losing position at work in terms of seniority, right? There are things that happen. Whoever stays home and takes care of the kid, is going to take a hit professionally.
Yeah.
And so everybody wants to come up with some sort of scheme where that doesn't happen, whether it's not counting 2 years of time off, off raising a kid, or 3, count that as work experience for the purpose of HR stuff, right? You could do that. Or in this case, they're saying that women should just get paid to have babies. But they're ignoring the fact that the kid isn't something of no value, right? I mean, the kid has value.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just having the kid just for the hell of it. The kid, it's not that you're just being punished for staying home and having the kid. You also get a kid at the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's really wanting to have your cake and eat it too.
Does that, and I'm going to quote from the article in the bottom of the page here, even begin to make up for the lifetime hit to her finances and career prospects?
I think if you care about money that much, you probably shouldn't be reproducing anyway.
I agree with you.
Because you're going to be a painfully horrible person, and all you're going to do is raise broken children. So for anybody who really feels this way, please don't have any kids. And any man that, no matter how hot she is, if you run into a woman like this, do not touch her with your penis.
Mm-hmm. I found the channel, by the way. It's the lead attorney.
Okay.
What it was, so, but yeah.
Any final thoughts on this, Sora? No. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but I just figured I haven't really looked at The Nation very often. This is a terrible publication.
My only real thing, like the joking aside, is this is something that is going to be at a governmental level. If you want to do something like this, if you want to take like Germany, I think Russia had at one point, because the population was not replacing itself fast enough, right? Not enough.
Mm-hmm.
The birth rate was so low that, and then the people are aging so quickly, right? That you're not having enough people to take care of your aging population, and the birth rate is dropping, etc. Then you're starting to have incentives, right? Tax breaks, money gifts, etc. to have children. Okay, but that becomes that's a federal problem at that point. Sure, that can be a discussion you might want to have with the government, but that comes from countries with completely different political systems than the U.S. So it'll be very interesting, maybe in the future, to see something like that implemented. But what they're asking here, what they're suggesting here, is silly.
Well, we could just have the government take all their kids and send them off to state-run orphanages, and that would make everything more equal. Then it wouldn't matter how well off your parents were or anything else. We could have that utopia just one generation sooner if we would just
government parenting centers.
Government parenting, happy, super fun, diverse government parenting
Sunshine.
centers.
Big Brother has your best interest at heart.
Sunshine, Sora. I know They all see Sichuan, don't they?
They get meals. They get meals from Pizza Hut. You know, it's fine.
Corporate sponsorship.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
baby's birth was sponsored by Taco Bell.
They told me
that's dark.
they told me the
This
Pepsi
is Little
tattoo was only
Carlton, brought
temporary.
to you by-
Hey, if you name your child Adidas, I think you get
Yes,
$10,000.
Absolutely. Oh, here's little Twitter.
Oh, little Adidas Tyson Pizza Hut Jones.
Oh, good.
Oh God. Okay.
Facebook.
Let's see. The Nation is a terrible publication, and I hate it. All right, moving
Yes.
on. So I found this on the BBC thing, and actually, initially, I was thinking this was going to be terrible, and then I realized that she's talking about race and religion with young children, and as much as I wanted to sort of hate this, I realized that nowhere in here does it say blame Whitey for being the white devil. You know, this is all generally just sort of talk to your kids about race early in an age-appropriate sort of way. I don't think I necessarily have a problem with this article per se. I mean, I don't think it's the BBC's job to be doing this with government money, because it can certainly get bad. But as I was reading through this thing, I was going to highlight all the horrible stuff that was in here. I mean, the inclusive language thing, is language police is a horrible sort of thing.
I was about to bring that.
But this could be a million times worse than it actually is. Because it isn't really full of the critical race theory indoctrination. It's just let's make everybody hyper aware of race all the time. Because I don't think that's particularly healthy either. So this isn't me endorsing this thing. It's just I'm surprised it wasn't a lot worse.
Yeah, that's a strange thing to settle for, is less badness than you thought would be there. But it happens sometimes.
Well, when I grew up, there were these public service announcements with this section of the I Have a Dream speech with Martin Luther King. And then every now and then he'd have this ad with Jesse Jackson, where he'd be like, don't just buy shoes, make shoes. Don't just watch television, own television stations. I remember that ad. It's like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Wasn't really a big deal. But we were sort of taught, at least my generation, to kind of look past race because it doesn't particularly matter. And that's the way I deal with stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if they're not doing critical race theory, is it really such a good thing to just make kids hyper aware of race all the freaking time?
Well,
I don't think so.
People employed.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you get two different mindsets about. There's the people who think it's one of the most important things, and it's actually worse to not acknowledge the person's race, versus the people who think that no, we look past it and we just look at the person. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I unfortunately, if anything, I think we kind of hit a point where it's definitely. I don't know if you can really do completely one or the other realistically. I think it'd be better to lean towards, looking past the person's, sex or race or whatever, and just looking at the person. But it's definitely one of these things where it's like, I as long as this conversation continues, I don't know if you can ever really completely get rid of the whole debate anyways. And you might have to kind of include both of them, at least on some level. So
I think the part of this another thing that sort of disturbs me is the emphasis on going after younger kids. I really find that part the most disturbing, because they progressives who talk about race all the time do subscribe to this notion that babies can be racist too. And I feel like this is sort of nodding in that direction.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they already have really cute baby books, like children's picture books, where it doesn't particularly talk about race, but they'll have it'll be like photo books about you're just like me kind of thing. And then they'll have pictures of babies from all over the world doing the same thing. They all every page is different baby from a different culture, and they're not necessarily talking about that culture, but they'll be like, such and such person from this country likes, brushes their teeth every night, or such and such person from this country likes to eat broccoli or something like that, right? So it's very some standard kind of baby learning, but with just different looking people or different looking babies, so you kind of learn that there's variety. I think that's very cute. I like something like that because it doesn't take the parent or guardian out of the picture. It doesn't really start basically forcing a certain narrative on your child. And it's just it's a more organic way of seeing people around you, but I think that's not what they want anymore. I think that's a little bit too soft. That's too nice way, that's mean. That shows that everybody's nice because every baby's the same,
What would be the problem with saying that race shouldn't be such a big deal? It's just a characteristic people have, and it doesn't really mean much. And just approaching life that way. Why don't we do that?
Skep just wants all black people to act white. That's what they're going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what a white oppressor would say, Skep.
Yeah, white oppressor like me.
Yeah. I remember, again, it's the whole thing I've learned over the last few years is, do I believe my lying eyes or the stuff that people tell me? So it's like when I see something firsthand, I give it a lot of emphasis in terms of what I believe now, because there are just too many people lying to me all the time.
Right.
And when I was a kid, I'd watch Laugh-In because Laugh-In was hilarious, and I liked it when I was a kid. I was a little weird. And I used to think the first celebrity that I ever liked, that I was a fan of, was Sammy Davis Jr. And it didn't matter to me one bit that his skin color was different than mine. I didn't even think anything of it.
Right.
It was a non-issue as far as I was concerned. I thought Sammy was awesome.
Yeah. It never even occurred to you, though.
That's just how racist babies and young kids are.
Yeah. Yeah. They're incorrigible from birth.
Yeah.
They have to be carefully taught, as the song goes.
Yeah. It's just stupid. And I hate race grifters, even when they're being nice. Like I said, I was surprised this was not a lot worse than it was. You start throwing in the CRT on top of all this, and then it's just like, oh my God. We need to stop them from doing this crap. Running around blaming each other is not getting us any closer to being together like we used to be. Right. We were making a lot of progress before a lot of people ginned up a lot of racial hatred just for the sake of votes.
That's right. That's the only reason that exists.
There's like a circle in hell for the people who did this.
That, and to cover the fact that, Wall Street was fucking things up big time.
Yeah. So let's see. The U.S. is to resume oil and gas drilling on public lands despite Biden campaign pledge. So...
well, okie dokie then.
Well, it's the devil is in the details, of course.
Yes.
Let me tell you a little bit about this. The plan calls for the government to lease fewer acres for drilling than initially proposed, charge steeper royalties to oil and gas companies, and assess the climate impact of developing the acreage. Now, part of this is just BS because they always assess the climate impact of... There's always multiple studies about assessing the damage caused by developing the acreage. That's a thing that already happens. Now, maybe in terms of greenhouse gas production or something, that might be something new. But an environmental impact report is already part of the process. Now, of course, we all remember Biden saying there's not going to be any more leases for drilling on public lands. Full stop. He was actually pretty darn clear about this. And by the way, no more drilling on federal lands, period.
Excuse me.
So it said the Friday announcement would make roughly 144,000 acres available for oil and gas drilling through a series of lease sales, an 80% reduction from the footprint of land that was being under evaluation for leasing, the Interior Department said in a statement. It would also require companies to pay royalties of 18.75% of the value of extracted oil and gas products, up from 12.5%. Because this is how we drive gas prices down.
This is how it's going to happen.
So what I think here is that they want to be able to say that they're doing something about gas prices to the people that are worried about that. But they also want to be able to tell the environmentalists that they're keeping, that they're restricting things and it's not as bad as it used to be. So they're trying to find some nasty route up the middle of the two positions that they think is going to keep them from getting in trouble. And in reality, this just makes everybody hate them.
Yes, exactly. It just makes everyone despise them. And then they hold them in contempt, too, after a while.
They must have an
This gets
awfully
better
low
and better.
opinion of us.
They do.
Yeah.
They absolutely do.
Do you have a thought on this, Geodes?
I mean, I'm kind of in some ways. I mean, like it's all really dumb. I'm glad that we're at least starting to do some stuff that we should have been doing all along. But it's too little, too late, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to save them for the midterms. So.
Yeah, I don't think so either, because he actually can't tout this. It's a thing that he's doing politically, and if anything, he wishes that nobody would actually notice.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants to... I don't think he even wants to take credit for this. He just wants the gas prices to go down and people to stop yelling at him.
Yep.
So he can move on to pudding time or something. Whatever it is he does when he's not being told what to do.
Stop making all that racket!
I'm trying, yeah. The Center for Biological Diversity and Environmental Group slammed the Biden administration's decision. The Biden administration's claim that it must hold these lease sales as pure fiction and a reckless failure of climate leadership, said Don't Care, public lands director for the group. It's as if they're ignoring the horror of firestorms, floods, and mega droughts and accepting climate catastrophes as business as usual. Randy Spivak seems to not be aware of the fact that it's not a question of how much oil we use, it's a question of where we get the oil we use from. Long-term changes in our fuel mixture and our energy sources are actually kind of a separate issue than where we get the oil from. Do we want to develop it in this country, or do we want to buy it from people who hate us? I mean, that's the question in my mind. But Biden doesn't have the leadership. Biden doesn't have the leadership necessary to just tell people, to tell these environmentalists, look, I'm still on your side. We're doing all this other stuff, but in the time being, while we still have cars running on gasoline, this is a thing we're going to do. It won't change the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. It will just make it so we're not buying fuel from people who hate us quite so much. But instead, they've done this thing where it's like, okay, fine. I'll let you get to second base, but I'm going to bitch at you the whole time about it. It's not good.
No.
Okay. Let's see.
More great leadership from the Biden administration.
Well, as we progress through the government we deserve block, Feinstein Defense Service report about deteriorating memory and ability to lead. Diane's not doing very well. And part of it, I have to express a little bit of sympathy. Her, basically lifelong mate died not that long ago.
Yep.
And she's pretty well up there in years. And losing somebody like that is not going to be easy. She's not
going to last very long.
She's not going to last very long. Just when you add the stress and the grief and everything on top of the age, she needs to not be in government anymore. And I mean that in a nice way, not in a politically opportunist way. Yeah, because whoever California tries to replace her with is going to be worse, just with less seniority. I can assure you that whatever the Democrats come up with, there's a 9 out of 10 chance that it's going to be probably in a very aggressive Latinx person. It's going to be somebody who's going to make us wish that we had Dianne Feinstein back, but she's just not in any condition to do this stuff. And you saw that her testimony at a lot of the Supreme Court hearings.
Yes.
And the last few that she's been involved with, and she's just not tracking.
No, she isn't. She's just barely aware of what's going on, I think, half the time.
Yeah.
So It's been a good run, but
Yeah.
she needs to. Someone who cares about her needs to just say it's time. We're leaving now.
Well,
Party's over.
Given what President Algernon's been able to pull off so far, I mean, she could probably fake it for quite a while longer. But I think they already have been trying to get rid of her recently. The California Democratic Party actually didn't want her to be the candidate last time she was elected.
Just because they don't understand how Congress works. Idiots.
Yeah, they actually tried to get somebody else in, and she ended up against the recommendation of the local party. Ended up getting the nomination.
One of the most powerful people in Congress. Let's replace her with a freshman representative. That'll work great.
Yeah, well, AOC needs a new friend, so it's going to
be exactly. So
yeah,
we'll
Frosted Glass is saying, has it been a good run? Well, I mean, it depends on what your metrics of success are. In terms of her holding power for a very long time and doing what she wanted to do in the Democrats, from their perspective, it's a good run.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid of what they're going to replace her with. It's going to be like AOC, but a dude. It's going to be terrible. Probably.
But I don't begrudge them. They're heroes.
No, it's fine. Well, I mean, Feinstein is a very old school Democrat.
Yes, very old school.
So if you've ever been to I've talked to people who've been to Feinstein fundraisers, and you see a lot of expensive jewelry and a lot of very large checks being written without much reservation.
Oh yeah.
You know, her husband was the money guy, and she could raise money like nobody's business. She was very much a traditional plutocrat Democrat type. She was not
also a wheeler dealer. She was a wheeler dealer too. Sometimes though,
yeah.
You know, she knew what it took to get things done, and she always knew who to call to you know, accomplish whatever it was she wanted to try and do.
Well, her and Boxer basically formed a block, and between the two of them, it was like a pincer movement. They were pretty ruthless.
Yep, they were, and it was like having two whips in the house.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's what we mean by her having a good run.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to President Algernon. This is a thing that happened. I'm sure many of you have seen this, because remember, the adults are back in the room, and America looks good to the world now, right? We can be proud because we don't have Orange Man tweeting. Instead, we have Joe Biden, an experienced professional.
We'll just have a look at the end of the speech and what goes on as he looks to shake someone's hand, I think.
God bless you all.
Where you going, Joe? Let's talk to the flag. What?
Hello, flag.
Where's that music coming from?
This does not instill confidence, not in me, not in anybody, and certainly not to the rest of the world that wants us to be the world hegemon. This is just terrifying. For all we know, he thinks Bo is standing there. I mean, honestly, we really don't know what's going on inside that man's head.
Yeah, he's getting pretty drifty, no doubt about it. He's a hazard. Needs to, you know, be kindly retired.
I just
put down.
Well, I would feel like it was just elder abuse, except for the fact that he wasn't exactly a nice person before he started sunsetting either.
He's evil. He's always been evil. He's a political hack opportunist of the first rank. It's the only thing he's good at, is being slimy.
Well, the stuff that's been going on with the laptop, with Hunter's laptop. Supposedly Hunter has left multiple laptops in multiple places. I don't even want to speculate on what it is he does that keeps breaking these laptops and then he drops them off and forgets about them. That doesn't seem like something an energy expert would do.
Maybe they're like breadcrumbs and he's trying to find his way back home.
Or maybe he secretly wants to be caught and stopped.
Yeah. Blink twice if you need help, Hunter.
maybe on some level, even Hunter knows that things are not the way they should be, and he just really wants somebody to stop him.
In point of fact, Hunter Biden is no dummy. He knows what's going on. He really does know the score. He's just morally amazingly weak.
I've never had a laptop break and not know where it was.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I've never had that casual relationship with the computer. Period.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, so Joe's not exactly doing all that well either. So between Joe and Diane and Nancy, I don't think that there should be age limits to these sorts of things, but I think competency should be an issue. And if somebody's really old and not doing all that well, we kind of need to replace them.
Probably.
I mean,
yeah.
Reagan, people criticized him for his age. And he actually was doing a pretty good job for all 8 years. I mean, for all appearances, he seemed like a bit of a dunce occasionally, but ultimately
he went downhill in the last year and a half.
Yeah, I mean, Nancy could have been pulling the strings quite a bit, and Nancy and her astrologer, but it was nothing like this.
No, absolutely. Joe Biden is our president, I suspect.
Yeah.
Just remember, all the footage from a little over a year and a half ago where they were talking, no, even longer, 2 years. They were talking about how, no, he's perfectly fine. See, he's biking. He's healthy. He's just fine.
He walks, he talks, he crawls on his belly like a reptile. Look at him. He's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of reptiles, Maxine Waters pays daughter another $24,000 in campaign cash, adding to $1.2 million in previous payments.
You go, girl.
Now, $24,000. This isn't
break the fucking handle.
In terms of Black Lives Matter money. This isn't even an outbuilding to one of the Patrice Culler's 5 or 6 houses that we know of.
Yeah, no, this is a tip to the olive waiter. Good God. The daughter has received $1.2 million total so far
since 2003.
Yeah, I don't care. That's a lot of money. I mean,
it's still a lot like she doesn't really have a job independent of her mom.
Yeah, well, there's that. What kind of a person do you want to be? How do you want to live your life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we saw Maxine, was it last week or a couple weeks ago, trying to basically told the homeless people who were protesting to go home.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, she did.
I think Maxine might have a bad case of the olds too, and maybe she needs to go as well.
And you know what would have been hilarious if every single one of those people starts setting up cardboard boxes right where they're standing and say, "You're right, we're home."
That's right. I think we should just have Greg Abbott send us is it Greg? Greg Abbott. Send us a bus and we could bus some of those homeless people to her front yard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, while we're busing people around, I mean, we might as well use it to good effect.
She probably got so used to telling her daughter, go home. And her daughter was like, I ain't got no home. I live with you, and that just kind of, rolled into her talk with the homeless people.
Mom,
the automatic.
Mom, leave me alone. I've got guests over. You're embarrassing me. So I guess it looks a little suspicious because they talk about a slate mailer, meaning those pieces of paper that they sort of mail out as junk mail that say, we recommend you vote for the following group of people. I get those all the time. And supposedly in positions like this for federal Congress people, it's very uncommon to do this. And they're saying that Representative Waters is the only federal politician to actually engage in this sort of thing. And this is what they're paying her daughter to do. So it kind of feels like were just sort of making up work for her as an excuse to give her money. I mean, AOC has given her her boyfriend a ton of money, as I recall. It's not
he's on
uncommon
her
for them
staff.
to do this stuff. Yeah.
He's on her staff.
Well, I don't necessarily have anything against hiring people that you trust, as long as they're competent to do the work.
Sure.
In fact, you'd kind of expect that. I mean, nobody on the right complained about Trump hiring people in his extended family. We even got a few peace deals out of it. So, based on the evidence, that seemed to be not that bad an idea. The real question is are they actually doing anything for the money, and are they competent?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Maxine Waters' daughter is really doing all that much.
I was trying to see what her background was, to see if she had accounting, finance background, or management, or law. Can't really find out much information about her.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to move on to the next thing, because this is actually a really interesting article. 17 LA gangs have sent out crews to follow and rob city's wealthiest. Have you guys heard about this?
Yeah.
No, not at all. Not until you pointed it out. This is the first I'd heard of it.
Yeah, it's bad. So, graphic content disturbing. I'm going to do this with the sound off. So here's somebody being attacked. You know, this is not good. You don't need to see more of that. But what they're doing is they're seeing people who are out on the town wearing fancy watches and dressed up or driving nice cars, and then they're following them home. And as they basically try to get into their garage or park or go home, they're just sticking guns in their faces or hitting them and knocking them to the ground. Or, you know, they're being extremely violent with these folks and then just taking their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this has happened lots of times. This isn't just an isolated incident. Let's see, I think there's a map here. Yeah. Follow-off robberies in LA. Since the start of 2021, there have been more than 220 follow-off robberies. These LAPD divisions have seen the most cases. Hollywood's seen 50, Central 40, Wilshire 46. You get into the less Tony parts of LA and you get fewer of them. But we're seeing double digits in lots of different precincts. This is a real problem. And this is, again, the whole societal rot thing. And what did they come back and do? They just say, well, you should just not let anybody know that you've got money. Just don't wear a nice watch. Don't go into places in public where people might see you wearing your nice watch.
That's their solution. These are our leaders, ladies and gentlemen.
How is this different than telling women to dress conservatively?
Yeah. I was going to say, have you tried not dressing like a slut?
Yeah.
Maybe if you covered up those shoulders, you wouldn't get touched at school.
Yeah, there's a little too much ankle showing there, young lady. You get what you deserve.
That's right.
Exactly. No, this is pretty terrible. I mean, it is LA, and you have to. Okay, LA is complicated. The Los Angeles Times is owned by a group of people that have a monstrous hate boner for Villanueva, the sheriff. So essentially, they got tired of being criticized by the LA Times. I'm trying to remember who owns it, but essentially some rich people just bought it and are doing pretty much what Reich was saying. Elon was going to do to Twitter. So the LA Times has a very weird relationship with law and order reporting, is what I'm clumsily trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Los Angeles Times starts talking about stuff like this, it's reached the point where even they can't kind of ignore it. Because they're not really friends. Yeah, they're really not friends of law and order in general.
Right.
In the case of a lot of homeless stuff, the sheriff has jurisdiction all over the area. Normally, he doesn't venture into places where the police force is taking care of stuff. But he does have the authority to step in when the police don't do their job somewhere, which is what he's done in the case of clearing out homeless encampments in Venice. The sheriff in LA is kind of on the ball. Unfortunately, the LA police, the LA mayor, the Los Angeles Times, and the district attorney, Gascon, are not in favor of all this stuff. So it doesn't do enough if only one guy there is actually doing his job well. It's a real problem. LA is kind of a shithole.
It is.
Yeah. Sorry. But I mean, they are sort of trying to do something about this stuff, but you've got people buying the stolen goods, and they've diluted the laws now to the point in California where there's not really a whole lot of risk for selling stolen goods or buying stolen goods.
That is a huge urban problem they have.
It is.
They have to get the bad guys to leave, and oh man, I do not even know. You know, this is a problem that has turned into a mess. You know, the George F. Will definition: problems are things that can be solved. Messes you have to live with. This is a problem that has turned into a mess. You will now have to live with this for a very long time. There's going to be a lot of resources that go toward addressing the mess that these assholes have created.
Yeah.
So disappointing. I love that state. So I love California. Love living out there. It just hurts my heart to see it like this.
Well, they do talk about these robberies, these 2 UCLA students with watches totaling nearly $145,000.
Yeah.
These are probably well-heeled foreign students. You do get more than a lot of very rich foreigners will come to the U.S. and it's just sort of part of their MO frequently to flaunt the money, to drive around in very expensive cars and show off very expensive watches and stuff. Makes you populars with the ladies. I've heard popular, not populars. But this is a rather large amount of money. So I don't really think victim blaming is such a good idea, but the idea of just wandering around with $145,000 covering 2 watches, $73,000, $51,000, that is an awful lot of property that's easy to steal in LA. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have the right to do this sort of thing, but it does seem like they're not exercising very good common sense.
They're dressing like sluts, in other words.
Yes, my male sluts.
Yes.
Dude sluts.
It's definitely one of those things where it's like it's not bad advice, but the fact that we'd have to have these people basically saying, "Oh well, this is the policy now. We're not actually doing anything to really stop it," is horrifying. Well,
when they do catch people, they just let them loose. And this is where the whole thing with Gascon comes in. You know, he didn't file gun enhancements because these people are actually taking guns and robbing people and then being left back out on the street. Now, part of this was initially due to COVID because they didn't want too many people in the jails. But Gascon loves a good criminal, and he's more than happy to just turn these people back loose again. Like I said, Villanueva by himself cannot solve all of the crime problems in LA. Until the people of LA demand of the mayor and the police department and the district attorney that they all do their jobs consistently and vigorously, I don't see this problem going away anytime soon.
Yeah, and that's a real political machine that has a hold of LA right now. Los Angeles city government is firmly ensconced in the grip of something that is not going to let any major change happen, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Moving on to the next thing. 2 female inmates pregnant after New Jersey admits biological males to women's prison. I'm not sure how this could have happened.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
It's a miracle.
It is
a
miracle.
Because those were real females who were assigned to the female prison, right? Those were real women, right?
Well, it's bigoted of you to think that women can't, that 2 women can't make a child together, Skep.
Of course.
A feminine penis is still a penis. Oh wait, that's counter to the argument they're trying to make.
You just gotta believe.
just clap. Yeah. Well, so this is the. I had a series of articles I could pick from, and I decided to go with the post-millennial one because it's extra snarky.
Penis.
Yeah.
Just because you have a feminine penis doesn't mean you should be a dick.
An investigation has been launched into the origins of the pregnancies, though reports from the prison say that the women voluntarily engaged in sex with a biological male inmate who claims to be female, despite having the obvious ability to impregnate women, something only men can do. It's not clear if the two women had sex with the same be-penised inmate or different ones.
I love that word so
Penis.
much. I love it so
Be-penised.
much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Be penis. That's my new word for boy. And we can't
Are
use boy and
you-
girl or male and female anymore, so we use be penised and unbe penised.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
mean-
a biologist. I don't know what that is.
You're not a biologist, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The policy change came after the ACLU brought a suit against the state demanding that New Jersey allow biological male inmates to self-ID as women in order to gain access to women's prisons. Now, to be fair, we've brought up trans stuff more than a few times on the Saturday show.
Mhm.
And I kind of wanted to make the point that I am not saying anything about the fundamental nature of trans people. Not at all. That's not my point. What I am saying rather vigorously, which is still politically incorrect, is I don't believe people when they say things that sound opportunistic in their best interest.
Oh,
If somebody
for
suddenly, if somebody suddenly gets caught by the police committing a sex crime, and then all of a sudden, it literally, as they're being handcuffed, they suddenly decide that they're a woman, I'm kind of skeptical of that claim. I know I'm supposed to just listen and believe, but I can't help but be a dick and be really skeptical of that claim.
Keep on hating, Harry.
Yeah.
On hating.
So, these athletes who have these sudden changes of heart when it seems to be really advantageous, these criminals who want to be put in the women's prison all of a sudden. Now, this is obviously a very different thing than somebody who's, transitioned medically and gone through all the programs to adjust their lifestyle and done things like that. That's not the same thing as some dude who, when the handcuffs go on, the voice goes up 2 octaves.
Women's prison sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Screw that. I mean, not screw that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The other thing.
Metaphorically.
So what do we need to do? Do we just need does a judge need to sign off on the thing? Because this ACLU plan where people can just sort of self-identify seems like it's not fit for purpose.
I think we're going to have to admit that a third gender or sex has emerged where it's not aligned with classical female, classical male. So we're going to have an other gender, and that will necessitate having other restrooms and other prisons and other swim teams and other swim leagues. And as long as people want to be in that other category, we will know how to treat them with respect to prisons and sports.
Well, to steelman the argument that these people are making, they say, well, it seems that all of a sudden, all these people, all these men are concerned about women's sports, but they were never concerned before. It's like, no, that's not why so many men have been upset or annoyed or outraged or whatever word you want to use about Leah Thomas and people like Leah Thomas. It's
Right.
because men think about sports and they think about what sports means in terms of fair play, and it's the unfairness of it, the lack of competition, the dishonesty that at least some of these people seem to have to get to where they are, that offends us. It's the lack of fair play that offends us. We don't necessarily want to watch women's swimming or women's cross country or women's anything in terms of sports, but we're offended that anybody would do something like that and call it sports. That's, I think, where the problem is for men.
I would agree with you. It's it just it changes the competition too much.
Yeah, and I've said before, I actually like women's basketball at the professional level. I've had business dealings with a major women's basketball team in a long time ago. That's not something I've done recently, but it's a thing that I've done professionally. You know, where I've gone to the games and met with the team afterwards and met with the management and been involved in actual business with these people. So I've met them, and they're nice people, and the games are actually really fun to watch because they have to actually do teamwork.
Yes, it's not mutant 7-foot individual performers trying to hammer each other and get close. They actually still take set shots from outside. It's kind
but
of
I know most people actually like the spectacle of, you know, professional men's basketball better. I admit that I'm the weird one because I actually
I like the women's NBA better also because it's less predictable. It's interesting. There's moments of high drama, much higher drama to me, more entertaining than the men's game.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing about
NBA
billiards. I mean, billiards oftentimes, I mean, although the best of the women often will play with the men.
Yeah.
But I actually find that the women's billiards, you know, like on ESPN2 is pretty interesting a lot of times. Because some of those men are so freaking superhuman. If I watch Efren Reyes play,
I was just going to say, I'm an Efren Reyes.
You just sort of sit there slack-jawed, like, what the hell did I just see?
Yeah.
You know, but if I see Allison Fisher play, I'm like,
Right.
I can actually follow this. I understand this game.
Yeah.
Sorry, don't mean to get into a discussion of women's billiards.
That's funny.
Anybody, any of you any of the rest of you bigots have any thoughts on this article?
If you told me, like back in, I don't know, probably around 2014, 2015, when like with all the like Gamergate related stuff going on with feminism, that this was the trajectory that just, 5-7 years later we'd be on, I don't know if I would believe that because it was all very, very pro women and all this other stuff, and now it's taken this direction where it's like I even have sympathy for some of the more ardent like feminists who are opposed to this kind of stuff, and it's just wild. It's wild to see how quickly things have turned out. So
yeah. Sora, she's still with us? He's still with us.
No.
No.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Good.
Can you
All
hear me?
right. I can hear you
Yes, we
just
can.
fine. Did you have any final thoughts on this?
Oh.
I don't want to be the only bigoted one here, so I'm trying to get the rest of you to incriminate yourselves.
I'm with Skep. Other.
Okay.
Time to other it.
Sounds good.
Go free or
Less
go home.
headache. No one's gonna be attacked, and no one's gonna either be attacked by on one side or the other. You've got you guys like making money and charging the government. There you go. More privatized prisons, and yeah, do that. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could give it a cool name.
Those. All I can think of is what's going to happen to those kids. How do you explain your parentage to those kids? Good luck. Have fun with that.
If we didn't care about Title IX at all, we could just not have gender in sports be a thing. That's also another simple way. Just, it's baseball or basketball. And if there's no quotas or anything, then it wouldn't make any difference. We could still have separate dressing rooms. We might need the X-League dressing room. That's possible. But we could just get rid of gender in sports completely, but it would completely destroy a lot of women's sports because they would just not be able to compete with the men. And there's places where that's true of the men as well. They wouldn't be able to compete with the women.
You have to get rid of Title IX if you do that.
You'd have to get rid of Title IX. And is that really such a bad thing to achieve diversity?
It's fine with me.
I'm fine with getting rid of Title IX. Throw Title IX under the bus. Just get rid of it. It'd be fine.
It actually did some good for a little while back in the day.
Yep.
It got things off the starting line and it turned women's competition into the board it is today. Killed a lot of rugby programs. It killed rugby in American college because that's what everybody cut was fucking rugby.
Yeah,
rugby doesn't make any money. Fuck them. We'll cut that money and give it to the girls, and that's exactly what they did. School after school.
Yeah, well, there's the whole thing about donors and college athletic programs and stuff. It all just seems kind of creepy to me. The whole idea of this big money-making football thing. I would not make it in Texas.
I'm with you. That's one of the things I'm not into that.
What's really disturbing is the way it's all the way down at the education level too. That's
high school too.
Yeah.
High school football should not be a money-making thing, and it isn't necessarily just about checks. They get stuff in exchange for putting the Pepsi logo in your stadium. We give you free uniforms and free equipment for training and stuff. It's just it shouldn't be
the way it works.
Pro.
That is the way it works down here too. Let me
all
assure
right.
you.
Well, this is all making me sad.
Yeah.
Okay. Homeschooling surge continues despite schools reopening.
Yay.
I don't know if this is really a huge surge because if you scroll down in this article, we're looking at just a few percent. Most people do not have the capability to homeschool their kids.
No, you know why it's a surge, Harry? Because the schools are reopening and people don't have to.
Yeah.
But it's still increasing, even at a time when you would expect it to decrease dramatically. It's increasing, and that really is a surge.
Well, it says here 3% of U.S. students were homeschooled before the pandemic-induced surge, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. The rising numbers have cut into public school enrollment in ways that affect future funding and renewed debates. We talked about this in a previous episode of this show when I was saying that they were protesting because they didn't want an elementary school closed. Well, we can't simultaneously give all of you raises and keep schools open when there's dwindling enrollment. They don't get their own printing press at the school district level. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, there's multiple reasons why it's happening. There's obviously the ideological exposure that, parents got firsthand, a firsthand look at. But there's also just the fact, like, some parents have realized that, we can actually take care of our kids while we're at home, and we've kind of figured out how to do it, and we kind of prefer it this way because our kids are nearby, and we kind of realize that at least on some level we might be able to educate them better than the teachers can, because they'll actually listen to us, unlike listening to teachers that are trying to handle 25 35 kids in the classroom. So
yeah, I'm not sure I've ever really fully bought into the argument that teacher-student ratios were that important compared to other things.
Teacher-student ratios are only important when in certain intervals, and once you get the ratio down far enough, to where in like an elementary school, you have 12 or 15 students, or less than about 20 students in a classroom for a teacher to manage. You don't get significant improvement with decreasing class size below that in terms of student performance. At least that was the social science at one time. I wouldn't be surprised if there was narrative-driven sociology to refute that now.
Well, a lot of it's the union trying to increase their membership.
You bet.
Let's just put it this way. Even if the union is right, I'm not going to take what they say without being a little bit critical, because they have a vested interest in that number being as small as possible.
As possible, right.
And whatever the actual number is, I would want to hear it from anybody but them.
Right.
The idea that the teachers' unions are somehow authorities that have our best interest at heart. No, they don't. They have their best interest at heart. They know exactly what their bread is, where their bread is buttered, and they don't care about us. They don't care about parents. I don't think they even care about the students all that much sometimes, except insofar as they help to justify their existence and make them look good and feel good about themselves. Man, that was cynical. Sorry.
Nope.
Well,
I'm not wrong.
I was going to say, at least from what I remember of being in high school, where it really becomes a problem. I mean, obviously you have the teachers that, don't necessarily care that for them it's a job, and that kind of sucks. Like, students can read that pretty easily. But the big thing is you're taking a bunch of kids, and some are going to be serious. They're going to try and study the material. Some are not going to care, and then some are going to be disruptive. And that's a giant amount of well, I guess I would just call it energy. That, like, frankly speaking, it's one of those things where the teachers also. I mean, one, there's not really an effective method to deal with the kids other than, I mean, I would personally just say, okay, well, don't come back in my class, but you can't really do that in some of these school systems. And but it's definitely becoming I think that's really where a lot of the problems are as well. So
They can't do a lot of things in many of these school systems, I'm afraid.
yeah.
But speaking of, well, okay, I won't try to segue this. Putin announced today that Russia will renew its lunar program with a new moon landing mission. During a visit to the can't pronounce Cosmodrome in the Amur region, Putin also said that Russia will continue work on a next-generation spaceship as well as nuclear space technology. Well, Vladimir, as much as I admire your spirit in terms of doing this sort of thing, the Russians have proven in the past that they're very good at crashing things into the moon and making them into pancakes.
Real quick, Sora needs back in.
Oh, sorry. She's back.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi there.
I don't know what happened. So sorry.
Well, it's fixed now. So Putin saying that he wants to restart the moon, basically his lunar program, and have Russia go to the moon is kind of hilarious, because the last time we kind of tricked them into spending a lot of money and they weren't able to do that. Do you think that with all their oil revenues that they might actually be able to pull this off this time, Skep?
I think they definitely will. Plus, just the advances that are and the knowledge that is now generally available. I think they'll do it and do it in a walk. It'll be very easy. They are very good at producing rockets that do one thing very well, and that Proton series of rockets is just, those engines just don't fail. And I think they'll have reliable propulsion, and the computer science and programming and engineering of their exploration efforts. I'll bet they'll actually be top notch. I really do.
I think they might get some people killed along the way, but
Yeah,
I think that the Russians are going to decide they don't care.
Yeah, exactly. They died bravely for Mother Russia. Yay!
The
Go
same
you.
with the Chinese. I think it's actually, they have an advantage over us that they definitely have a stomach for loss of human life that the West doesn't have.
That's right. It's almost a collective kind of feeling about everybody is part of the Chinese people, and everybody is working for the benefit of the Chinese people. That's what the government is trying to sell them. The people themselves are much more individualistic, and there are all the ethnic and cultural tensions among subgroups within China, and there are many, all festering with resentment toward the Han Chinese of the Northeast.
Well, the last couple times that we've had manned space, loss of life in manned space flight in the U.S., we immediately just sort of shut it all down and was all hands on deck to figure out what happened.
Yeah.
They even roped Feynman into the first one. 'Cause-
No, Feynman absolutely had a perfect illustration of what happened.
Yeah. Well, the story about Feynman and the shuttle disaster was pretty funny, because Feynman sort of got the impression there were some bright young people at NASA that were kind of handing him the right information to kind of point him in the direction that they thought he should look. He definitely didn't just sort of come up with the idea out of the blue, but he was more than happy to add his weight to what they'd come up with, since they were obviously right.
Well, they had to find a way to bring that in politically when one of their own engineers had that morning said, you should not launch. I recommend against launching because of this exact reason.
Yeah.
The O-rings will not support. I mean, and he ended up quitting over it.
Well, he wasn't wrong.
No.
Yeah, we've got the data from Morton Thiokol right here. Those solid rocket boosters were dangerous as hell, but they were necessary to get that stuff up into space. Yeah. Anyway, so this ought to be cool. I think I welcome the Russians doing this sort of thing. I want to see them spend lots and lots of time and be distracted on this, because I think this is awesome. And as you pointed out, they probably will succeed at some point, but it's okay. Let's see. And finally, in penis news, Molly Shannon of SNL says she was sexually harassed by the late Different Strokes actor Gary Coleman. He was relentless.
What, does she want a piece of his estate?
I don't she's writing a book, and she's decided that this is the story that needs to be told.
Because this will get those fat.
So I'm still I have this
dollars.
picture in my mind of Molly Shannon and Gary Coleman. Now, Gary Coleman was just a little guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all she would have to do is reach out her arm and put it on his forehead, and his little hands wouldn't be able to even reach her.
Also, Molly Shannon is a big woman. She is not a small, petite woman.
It's just about the reach.
Has rangy arms.
Yeah, it's just
punch
hold
him
him
like a football.
Just hold him at arm's length. It won't make any difference. So what she's claiming is that they had the same agent, and she went to meet up with Gary Coleman for reasons, some professional thing. And as soon as the agent left the room, Gary Coleman got real handsy with her.
Interesting.
But this is apparently news.
How weird.
Yeah, this just seems weird. It seems weird that we're talking about it. It seems weird that she thinks this. It's like a weird flex kind of thing. I don't quite understand it. The 57-year-old actress aired the allegations during an appearance on the Howard Stern show on Tuesday, going into detail about her harrowing experience with Coleman.
Harrowing.
You know, a lot of people, dare I say, have suffered a lot worse things than having Gary Coleman come at them, because she could have just walked out of the room.
Yeah, read some of the accounts of the survivors of the camps, the extermination camps in World War II. Harrowing. My ass harrowing.
And I like Molly Shannon for the most part. Okay, so don't get me wrong, but it's like...
Yeah, I like her too. I'm a fan. This is really disappointing.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed in her. And not terrible, and not... I mean, I hope that I hope it wasn't as I hope it didn't happen at all, I guess, is the thing. But I also would be saddened by the fact that she'd be making such a deal out of this sort of thing.
Yeah,
it definitely kind of feels like never let a famous death go to waste.
It does.
Kind of, yeah.
Well, it's right up there with
it's selling a book, right?
Well, it's like right up there with the deathbed conversions. It's like, oh yeah, Madeleine Murray O'Hare, she was asking for God on her deathbed. It's like, well, do you have any proof of that? No, I was the only one there.
Uh-huh.
Everybody else was off getting Demerol or something, and I was just there. And then she was just saying, "Oh Jesus!" It's like, no, well, it's very convenient to say things about what dead people said when nobody else was around.
Mm-hmm.
Right. No, she was probably saying, "Good God, leave me alone."
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of feeling skeptical about this story, Molly.
Yeah. I filed it under shit that never happened.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Poor Gary Coleman. You know, he ran to be governor of California during
Sure
that
did.
runoff election. It was great. We had Gary Coleman, we had porn stars, we had all of these just crazy people running, and we ended up with getting Arnold.
Yeah.
And you say California is an amazing place. All right, that's it for tonight. Any
Yay.
final thoughts, Sora?
No.
Geodes?
Laugh, because the only other option is to cry.
Live, laugh, love.
Yeah.
There you go.
Though there are
And
clouds in the sky, you'll get by. Smile. No, wait, that's copyrighted. Go ahead, Skep.
I was just going to say, as as my friends in Canada say, many are cold, few are frozen.
Good night, everybody. Zoo's closed.
Good night.
Good night.